Young people are the future, but are they showing up at the ballot box? Across Zimbabwe and the region, youth participation in electoral processes continues to decline. So, what's behind the disconnect? Electalk wants to understand the why, and who better to ask than young people themselves? In this episode of Electalk, we bring young voices to the table to unpack the realities of electoral participation, the barriers, the frustrations, and what it would take to get young people engaged.
Why do you think are the reasons behind the decline in youth registering to vote?
Well, that's quite an interesting question. I think, to be fair, we have realized a rising trajectory in young people putting forward their interest in voting, though it's not enough. And the dynamics that surrounds that question, it's number one, it has been both apathy and structural challenges. The first one has been lack of representation among the young people themselves. You know, when you look at the tiers of power, there are spaces that are still locked for the elderly generation. And representation is key in terms of fostering and culminating identity and the culture of belonging to that. Then secondly, it has been the lack of comprehensive civic education. Yes, the education is there, but it's sporadic and only comes when we are about to vote. But it must be inculcated from the primary level up until someone breaks into the secondary level and hopefully to the tertiary level, because it is your duty to national development. Another thing that has caused this is because in the recent time, our politics has been characterized as toxic, high risk, and low rewarding. So you find that the people that are supposed to set an exemplary, to be exemplary figures, they have not been able to live up to what they have promised. The other thing has been the lack of friendliness in different marginalities. We talk about young people that are in prisons or that could be in hospital during the time leading to the electoral process. We're talking about young people that may be disenfranchised because of the political violence. We're talking about young people with disability, different disabilities. And as a result, all of this culminates into this apathetic, very sorrowful outcome that we see. But more importantly, I think it's very important to say, even from what ERC has provided, if we look at the 2023 elections, we had 61% of young people had registered to vote in themselves. But the dynamics that I've mentioned also led to the poor turnout. We will look at other issues of the voting itself, but I think in brief, these are some of the reasons why we would think from the outside young people are not interested in registering to what? To vote.
I think and feel that the reasons behind the decline in youth registering to vote is because on behalf of the youth, we feel that there is no difference whether we register to vote, whether we don't, whether we vote, whether we don't vote. There won't be any change. There won't be any difference. Like you mentioned, the political atmosphere is very toxic, unrewarding, and high risking. So why should we?
That's quite interesting. And you bring another aspect that leading up to the 2023 elections, we saw the main political institutions rallying and mobilizing their young people to vote. Unfortunately, what was missing from my point of view as a development practitioner has been the quality of the responsibility that was being placed on them. So being told to register to vote was okay. But in terms of what are you going to do when you're there? Do you have enough tools to make the best decision for yourself, for your constituents? Are you able to hold them accountable? Have you able to go through what they are proposing? For me, I think these are some of the very important things that we're supposed to see. And leading up to that, you submitted is that there won't be any difference at the end of the day because the script is the same. It's different figures, but you could see from both the players that there was an appetite to have young people vote because of our census. You know, with 67 of our national population are young people. Definitely, they can shape any election at any given time. But that strategic withholding of information, critical tools for you to be able to question your governance system, I think has been the lacking catalyst in terms of having a meaningful and fruitful youth participation in these processes.
Okay, I also think that even if the youth were given enough information after registering to vote, what to do, what they should do after that, way to vote, the right decisions and stuff like that, I think and feel some youth will still choose to go Mine rather than voting or registering to vote because that is what they're benefiting. they'll still feel and think they're not benefiting anything from registering to vote and from voting as well.
Yeah, partially so. Yeah, the issue of, from me, I would want to interact it from the position of poverty, because the act itself to go to register, then to wait to vote, there's no immediate material or financial reward that may come out of them. And hence the colloquial asking of saying, Panama t-shirt, Nima chicken in here, across the board. This is not only to the ruling or to the opposing. It speaks to the immediate hunger and the appetite to be for you to be able to get something from the ground and be able to meet your immediate needs that are lacking. So again, to the question of if we are able to then properly unpack to say to young people, development may seem to be slowly, but this is important in terms of A, B, C, D. There are things that we can do in the short term. There are things that we can do in the long term, and there are things that we can do in the mid term. It will be very much helpful. So yes, to your experience, it remains true and it remains correct. And just like I said on other things, these are some of the reasons why young people are not registering to vote. And to you, the listeners, the viewers across the world, it would be interesting for you to submit why yourself or the person that you know or your community has not yet fully showed up for this.
Okay, quick question. How effective are you in terms of brainstorming when you have an empty stomach?
Yeah, poverty, I cannot argue on poverty. I think once someone lacks, is deprived at the basic food, nutrition, security, shelter, it becomes very difficult for them to be able to participate at a systemic level and for them to think broader because they have immediate needs.
Okay, thank you. Do you think the proposals under the Constitutional Amendment Act number 3, which transferring voter registration from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to the Registrar-General, will improve the registration rates of youths? I don't think it will improve the registration rates of youth because we believe in. All right. We already have this poverty mentality. If we are not given chicken in t-shirts and stuff like that, or any immediate benefit, we won't register and we won't vote already. And then there's this amendment bill, equity, we have to choose an MP first, and then the MP chooses the president for us. The process is now too long and too complicated. It's like we no longer have that freedom to choose the leader that we want. Because honestly speaking, some of the youth, they really don't care about the MPs or the councillors or what. Their main focus, their main goal is on the president. So if we're not given a platform to choose the president I want for ourselves, then why should we? I feel like more youths are going to withdraw from this because I'm not speaking for all youths. Some youths, they don't even trust their MPs as of now. They don't trust them. Are they going to make the right decision for them? Are they going to make the right choices for them when they get to a point where they are required to vote for a president or not? Because only speaking, we are all poor, we all have empty stomachs. And if an MP is bought off, agapiwa chingo, agapiwa chicken in, agapiwa red box, will change. They will make other decisions that do not have anything to do with the people who voted for them. So basically, it wasn't a good move. It won't improve registration of youths.
That's quite a thought-provoking. I would want to concede very early on to say young people are not homogeneous. So definitely to the young people that are aligned to the pro-government or that are involved in the designing of this and that were proponents of this, definitely they would argue to say it would. But then those that are against it wouldn't. But if we can have a third perspective of that, it would be very, very much important. Of the two camps, or of the plurality of people that are having this discussion, there's been a lacking voice in terms of that. How does it, in fact, make our governance effective? How does it truly help the average person in terms of what they are doing? So the vehicle in terms, or the tools through which we register to vote are important, but what are we voting for? And unfortunately, our politics has been politics of personalities. You would find that even across the camp, nobody has truly interrogated this particular point to say, will the separation or the taking of registration to the registrar assist? Will it have any consequences on the participation, the perception, and the involvement of young people. Yes, the argument from proponents is that it will increase the efficacy and the time through which we are able to do this and the management of information. But it's not the first time that the electoral registration was done by the registrar. Again, the lack of justification to say, why did we move away from this in 2013 and coming back to it in 2026 or post 2026? How does it really help and how does it inspire? But what's more important for me has been the disconnect of the legal architecture. We talk about young people being 67%, but for the past decade, I myself have been involved in the conversation around enacting a youth act, a specific piece of legislation that is able to compel the government, to compel stakeholders of governance, of development, to have a direct benefit for young people. So you find that the constitutional amendment only in a space of 8 months had gone through all the general lawmaking processes. But for the past decade, since 2015, up until today, we have had the revision of the youth bill that has not been done. So more importantly now, as a young person, when I interact with these things, yes, the voter registration is there, it's important, but the very basic legislative framework that is supposed to empower me, to protect me, to advance what I need in these spaces is lacking. So there's that disconnect. And at the end of the day, these are some of the things that then comes out is apathetic behavior or the lack of interest to do these things in terms of how do we go forward. So it yet to be seen, because, it's only from July that this was passed into law, and we haven't had the opportunity to run a voter registration to see if this new vehicle that has been proposed is at the end of the day going to give us anything. And unfortunately, the government holds the monopoly to effectiveness and efficacy. If they say we want to do these things by design or by deliberate, if it's opposed, it may not succeed. We yet to see what will happen of this. But again, to the specific question, it's neither here nor there, simply because of the underlying, more importantly, factors that we are yet to discuss and to see what will happen.
Okay. I was also thinking that moving voter registration from ZAC to Registrar-General has a lot of implications. Who is going to hold the Registrar-General accountable? I mean, we've been failing to hold ZAC accountable for the past few elections that, of course, I witnessed. Who is going to hold the Registrar-General accountable? And if we don't have an answer to that question, some of us will withdraw ourselves from voting, registering, and that type of stuff.
Yeah. And I hope to our fact checkers, they would assist in terms of, it just kept me in terms of what's the parent ministry responsible for that. But like you said, the Registrar-General is a department in a ministry that is overseen by the executive. So that in terms of whipping or over-influence by the executive, it remains a very big challenge. But to the young people at the end of the day, if a call to register to vote has been given, let's still go, whether it's going to ZEC or whether it's going to the registrar department. Now it's within the registrar department. Let's go and make use of the available platforms.
What's your put that to us?
But more importantly, there's a point that I wanted to submit. More importantly, of the stakeholders, ZEC itself has not yet come out to say how is this going to affect its operations or how is it going to better its delivery. It will be important, it will be interesting to hear even the ZEC engaging with stakeholders to say, this now new act, how are we going to mechanize it? How are we going to transfer this department? You wanted to come in, you wanted to chime in with a question, I believe. It was about help, something.
You said that as the youth, whenever we're given an opportunity or the chance to register and to vote, we should grab it with 2 hands. And I was like, how will it help us? We have been doing this ever since 2008, 2023, 2019. How will it help us?
I want to attempt it from a different point of view. I think one of the things that we cannot rush away from is risk. The moment you left your doorstep coming here, there was risk that either you're going to be hit by traffic or there's going to be an accident, things like that. So we do not then abscond from what we can do as citizens simply because of the risk or the negative implications might seem to outweigh what you might want to do. Let's start participating in those. We cannot change a system. We cannot influence a system. We cannot better a system from the outside. We have to be part of that, interact with it, proffer solutions to it, make use of the available mechanisms. Will you commit suicide today simply because there's poverty? Because the question will be, what's the purpose of living if you're not making enough for yourself? Philosophically, the best thing you can do is to commit suicide. Not that I'm doing that. For the purposes of this debate, I'm trying to say that if you work with the end in mind and you hug it, you grab it both hands to say it's all negative, definitely, even this very conversation we're having, we might be then, they may do an Uno reverse to say, so what's the purpose of it?
Okay.
Yes.
Do you understand that there are certain things in our lives as youth that we think and feel are a waste of our time and our energy and our money? Like I said earlier, it's better. Some of us think it's better when I go mine than with a registration and voting, because one, in the near future or later, we are not benefiting anything. We're not benefiting anything. We're not seeing any changes. We don't want to regret the time we wasted here no register voter. Because we know either way, even if you vote for A, there's also going to say B is the winner. Even if we have the statistics to prove that no, A rigged this election. So why should we waste our time doing stuff that doesn't benefit us? And later or in the near future. It's kind of my mind past 2 weeks
You know, I'm happy about this candid discussion, and I hope the stakeholders of our development, including the government that watch this show, will be able to take this into account. At the end of the day, what we see are the young people say the available platforms does not help us in any way. But for me, as a development practitioner, I think it's important to grieve, it's important to be angry, it's important to feel disconnected to what's currently happening. But what's more important is to rise out of that and be able to do something at the end of the day. I understand going to the mines, it gives you any immediate reward. But again, if you go around Penalonga, if you go to the mining hotspots, including maybe in here in Harare, we have lost a lot of young people simply because of disconnected policy. There's no protective clothing. There's no security in terms of how do you even sell things that you do. So one of the things that I think would be very important is that, unfortunately, in our context, development has been relegated to a political process alone. And in terms of holding the government accountable, even sometimes proffering solutions has been reduced to the ballot process, but it's not like that. And even when you look at the tiers of government, if you're in a village starting at your Sabuku, they are a representative of the government. In urban setup, even your own councillor is also there supposed to do local governance and to deliver the best for you at the end of the day. So again, the first question, why do we have a perception that young people are not registering to vote? And my second point was that the lack of comprehensive education. There are things that we can do immediately, that's fine. Okay. But to give you an example or to sometimes cast a question on that, what happens if the mine floods? What happens if someone comes and say, you know what, I'm the monopoly to violence, I have a gun, I'm going to close this mine. Where are you going to get your next meal? You cannot then suggest to take laws into your hands and commit other crimes, because again, even if you vote or we don't vote, at the end of the day, you'll be put in jail with the available policies and things like that. So it's important for us to try and exhaust all remedies that are currently available legally within the spirit of the Constitution and any other agreement we may have. But it's true. Again, why do we see dwindling numbers at the end of the day, especially in local governance? Because at presidential election, we see a lot of young people coming out. But you ask someone, they tell you, I don't even care about the councillor. You understand? Mm-hmm. Again, that disconnect in terms of what's the role of a councillor within a specific ward and how does it compound to national development and what can be done. So I guess to the ERC colleagues giving this platform, asante sane pane basa. We need to keep on having this conversation. And thank you for that, candid, because you are not the only one. We are not the only ones that are feeling that currently it's all talk shows. Currently, it's all putting lipstick on a monkey. But again, like I told you, we are not the same. And those that feel like the platform is not providing should speak up, should be involved. Because those that say it's doing, trust me, they're more than happy to see you saying, I'm going to the mine. Because they know the law that will direct you at those mines, they will craft it through the ballot, through the person that they prefer.
Okay. Are we sure that those discussion is going to reach the marginalized areas of Zimbabwe, kunana Mpinga uko, kunana Mpire, are they going to access this discussion, or there are ways ekuti vaone information at kutaura panapo?
So accessibility, it's again, we're now in different parameters. And I think that our stakeholders that are more importantly in media, they have a role to play in terms of how do we have very relatable civic education. Could it be through arts? Could it be through jingles? These things have been effective. You and I remember Rambai Makashinga. That was done back in 2004. You understand? Yeah, but Rambai Makashinga, the jingles have managed to stood the test of time. So even us as young people, the more important question is to say, how do we make this information relatable? How do we step away from the toxic culture of politics? How do we converge, even those that support and even oppose? Why is that in Zimbabwe, in 2026, there has not been any youth in Ndaba, or altogether now we're young people, where a Madzibaba, a doctor, a Windy, a lawyer, a police officer, a young person, and a wife are able to sit and concur on developmental issues and decide on the best vehicle that can bring them there. I think the broken society is the biggest question. And again, you see that the layers of marginalities. You go to Binga right now, you're looking all dressed up. Sorry to say Binga doesn't mean to say they're the most impoverished, but you go to any marginalized community today, you're dressed like this, you stand out. Already there's an elitist connotation in terms of how you're dressed, how you carry yourself, their realities. You're talking about mining in marginalized communities, it's either agriculture or fishing again. So that's why we say the developmental issues must lead the electoral process, not the electoral process to say, if you eventually decide that Delight is in office, they will do A, B, C, D. No, we need to do A, B, C, D, and who's the best fit for that. And if we agree at the national level, what's more important in terms of development, I think we'll be able also to have this very important discussion reach the peripheries of our country.
I would like to concur with you. Moving on to the next question. What recommendations do you propose to the Registrar-General?
Yeah, so I think to our Registrar-General, I think we need more engagement with stakeholders. I think them as a department, they've now resumed a very important role in terms of mobilizing the population towards voter registration. And they need to come out more, just like we spoke about. Let's have this conversation. As a government department, let's not politicize them. The government is there to serve everybody. Let's truly understand why we're there. The department needs to come out and have proper conversation in terms of how does that help us to go. So the first recommendation, they need to be part of the conversations. And they need to show goodwill in terms of how is this going to help. Immediately, we may react because we're outside of the government, we're outside of these institutions. We may react to say why. They can answer the why questions. The how we may negotiate, but the why they need to come out and say it correctly. Number two, it will be across the board to improve accountability, efficiency, and efficacy in our government department. I think we have seen that even parastatals, even government departments, even ministries, they're always lagging behind. To an extent that today we don't have a single portal domain. That way you can access all government ministries. That's why you see some of them are leading in ICTs. You can talk to them virtually, you can do things. Some of them you need to go there with your papers. You still need your fingerprints for them to do these things. And we're talking one department is biometric. So secular governance is very much important because you understand that the registrar department cannot outdo the system that houses it. So the system itself needs to be improved. And colleagues, Zimbabweans, let's not shy away from developmental issues. Let's not scare each other. Unonyudzire munhu kana ida kubvunza department rinoshanda here. Uriwe chakati kana munhu achibvunza. No, let's learn to speak. The same way we converge around soccer, the same way we converge around issues on tabloids. Let's do this. And the registrar department, please open the doors. Please, let's engage. I think that would be my first recommendation. Then secondly, when it comes to relatable education, let's not do tokenistic to say disability, braille, things like that. We have seen a gap in terms of how our government, how our governance, our service delivery lacks, and in a way perpetuates social mobility in terms of those that are behind remain behind, those that in front can go because of this gap in terms of how we do these things. So there needs to be inclusive, deliberate inclusiveness. Yes, the young people, sometimes we may be called very difficult to deal with because we are very passionate about our issues. Sometimes we may not listen because we're angry of what's happening, but they also need to understand they're dealing with a very ambitious generation that also needs to understand these issues, why it's important, what kind of a goodwill and cleaning of the name of the department that we're going to do. The history of having elections and the counting being suspended for 2 weeks and only for the department to come back and say we are resuming. These are some of the things that make citizens shiver when they hear about the registrar department continuing with this important service to the nation.
Yeah. Just to add on, I think the Registrar-General department should provide enough notions or services to make sure that every youth, whether you are in the urban or in the marginalized areas, gets access to information about registration, information about voting. We should be well educated, well informed. I don't know, should we move on to the next question, or you've exhausted all the points?
No, I think the register department is big, and it means different things to different people. Some would argue that because they are the resident. When you are born, they know that you are born. When you die, they know that you have died. And when you want to get documents to travel and to do other things, they are also the custodians of that information. So in terms of having the long horizons, in terms of having knowledge management, information management, it could be good. And also, time in and again, ZEC is always coming back to the treasury requesting for more funding to be able to discharge their role. So maybe having that specific role taken away from them might help ZEC to discharge of their duties more importantly. Unfortunately, these two important stakeholders are not part of the conversations in terms of them telling us what's the strategy, how is this better, what challenges have they faced, because what are the lessons that this exercise we are going to take from ZEC and put to the registrar. We may change the houser of this important role, but fail to address why it was failing or why it was not providing desired outcomes when it was still with ZEC.
Okay, so in a nutshell, the Registrar-General and ZEC need to be involved in these conversations.
Yes, we did them.
Okay.
And we are more than happy to engage with you. Come, educate us, learn, amplify the voice. We are more than happy to do that.
Following the Constitutional Amendment Act number 3, do you trust their MPs enough to protect your interests in the presidential vote? I think it's a two-way street. We trust some. I honestly trust my MP to make the right decision or to choose a presidential candidate for me. I trust him. He knows our interests. We chose him. He knows our struggles as the people. He's for us. So I have no doubt.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I don't even trust myself before I trust an MP. So I think I would say kwete no nada angeke. I don't know other languages that I can put in terms of characterizing how I'm apprehensive about this. Now, before I look at an individual as the MP, I look at the culture.
Okay.
I look at the habits within the space that they're navigating. And our Zimbabwean politics, there's an aspect of the whipping system.
Okay.
In as much as you trust your MP, if they're whipped from the top above, they'll also whip your choice to make sure that it accommodates the political aspirations, not your developmental aspirations. That on its own makes it very difficult to trust someone and to follow through. More importantly, we have seen a tragic shift and change of ideological principles amongst the representative more recently when we were discussing about the bill. At the end of the day, we do a majority. We are not asking why people changed, but the mechanism through they did it. They did not even consult their own constituencies. Now let's do an analysis of the available members of MP. You cannot name even 5 that are connected to their constituencies. That at least they've got a Facebook page that does still have a constituents office. That they can still go sit with their local counterpart, the councillor, listen to the people. We know that every Friday you can talk to the MP. And this is the message to you, our representative. You are not doing enough. Not everybody is on social media. Not everybody have got airtime to call you. How come that we have members of parliament that don't even live in the constituencies? Later on, trust them. But some of the things you don't need to be told, you need to feel them. You need to live them. You need to experience them. You need to be associated with them. You don't need to tell you that they're potholes. Once you saw potholes, once the kids that play in the roads, those things will be able to clear your perspective. That's number one. Number 2 has been the lack of accountability culture. I spoke about the lack of avenues for me to go and say to my member of parliament, what have you managed to do with the community development fund? You are the community. Were you ever consulted in terms of what they're going to do? Yes, we know there are national documents like the development NDS2. We know about the critical skills, the tripartite, things like those. We know. But has your member of parliament come down to the community, spend a week, make this information relatable, allow you to prioritize what do you need in your community? Or you're just told that the MP is now going to purchase specific ground, or they're going to look at themselves as the actual community. We go and demand blue books from the government, but I think the members of parliament of this country, that's why people were crying foul to say, these guys, they'll not be able to represent exactly what I mean when I go there. And look at the quality of conversation in the National Assembly when it's televised on TV. I know for a fact there was a day, the whole session, so at the surface level, people are like, my imperials, but at a deliberate level, they were able not to focus on important issues on the day when ministers were in the room. But your community,
Yeah, true.
so yes, there are those outliers, the people that have managed to do well. We salute them, we fame, we name them, they're important. But to be honest with you, I do not see a situation where someone that has come through PR, where someone that has come through Senate, where someone that has come through Tingoringo.
Yo.
No.
Okay, I don't know why you've managed to change my perspective right now, but I would like to concur with you. The reason why some of these MPs tend to switch sides, or rather do things that are beneficial to them, in Zara, because takabva tichiwirirana kwamvura chika makumbo tichitowirirana kuti MP funa kwakadai vakazosvika kwavanosvikawo kuno vakanzi chioi kana kaufu ka 2 kg keufu kana ka 2 kg pork pfungwa dzotochinjika. Saka yeah, you make a very valid point kuti people change. We don't have to trust people. Vanhu vakaona zvavaona, vaona mari, vaona chi, they tend to change perspective yavo. So I think it's very safe for me to say one man, one vote is very key. Because again, vamwe vacho havatonzwisise kuti ndi-MP webazara kwampinyi but anogara kumadheudheu. He doesn't understand what we face, what we go through. But distance atofamba saunechikoro tichienda kuchikoro kunodzidza, get 4 people walking 4 kilometers to school. Yeah, hazvinzwisise because anenge achingopurutsa ari kumadheudheu. So yeah.
And by extension, I think the Zimbabwean governance landscape is one that is confusing and exhausting, where it's vertically divided in terms of authority. A central government, we know that mainly sometimes it's our ruling party that is there. In the local governance, it is the opposition, the professional opposition parties, or those that are perceived to be lined up by the civil society, because they are normally the conduits that allows these discussions to happen. So what you see sometimes is a strategic design for some specific constituents to fail. And unfortunately, when you talk about portals and things like that, the role of the MP is now being confused with the role of what? The role of the councillor, who's supposed to do what and what. But in a proper setup, it's supposed to be a continuum. We're supposed to be able for them to work together like gears. Yeah. And for them, when you start to nitpick and say who does what and when, at the end of the day, we're supposed to come together as a community. If anything, that's supposed to be the spirit of what we do. So again, another important question is, do you even trust your own councillor? In your own councillor, do you even trust them? And before you even go there, do you even trust the bureaucrats, the people that you see in those development offices in your community to be able to do these things? So I don't know, be it by ignorance, by toxicity, MPs tend to write in this conversation, but they're just but a cog in a very big machine in terms of them being in interest in this. Because interest at the end of the interests are different. Your interest for you to say these things that you spoke about, and functioning local community, roads, lighting, and things like that. That's more importantly with what? With the councillor. There's the business community. They've got different interests with ours as young people. Yes. We have got the church community, also have got different things. things to do this. And as long as all these communities of interest are not able to meet away from elections to speak and agree on development processes, then it will be very difficult. We place too much trust in the MPs.
And less trust in the councillors.
So it's for the very simple answer to this. I don't think they can fully discharge this role. But our MPs, we know this now law. We are not saying you cannot do this. If anything, it's a call for us to do better. Because my MP one also batkana shakar tutarambwa ku podcast tu.
Tovaudza ma-MP nemakansila kuti vadzoke muvanhu.
Yeah.
Dzokai muvanhu.
Zvamufani mwana anokuruma achiyamwa aritoda mukaka but pamwononoka kumupa.
In your opinion, why are political parties increasingly becoming disconnected with the youth?
In my opinion, I think I would attribute it to, I think as people need to understand what politics, what is politics, what are political parties, and what are politicians. And at the core of it, in the very simplest, I think it's the distribution of power, access, and means of production. And that's why our interests should align through the presentation of manifestos and things that do that. In political parties, what happens at political party level translates at government level. And what we've seen in both political parties has been the majoring on minor issues and minoring on major issues. Why is this issue, this discussion about youth involvement in governance at a legal level, it's not even represented in these political parties? Yes, they do have youth wings, but I've never seen both or amongst the plurality of these institutions having robust policy critique, even internally to say, let's critically look at what we are proposing to the people and things like that. So in that, it shows you that there has been a culture of wealth accumulation, lining of pockets, tenderpreneurship, immunity against the brokerage of law, the breaking of law. And in those cases, we do have good young people that are outliers that are doing well. But when you talk at the highest level, you find that in as much as the main figures of the political parties are doing wonderful jobs in terms of what they do, why is it we've never heard of a situation where the young constituents within those political parties having robust, factual, objective debates around development? And if it becomes a kunzi delight ndiye ega kana kuti wewe chete anditi kana kuti wewe unoita kusvika mangwana tisatataura kuti kuitirei, it becomes a challenge. So what happens is that because of these political parties are failing to put their houses in order, are failing to enact progressive laws, practices and procedures within political parties, it translates to the national government. And from someone who's observing from outside, from that point onward, you know that I cannot be able to be part of this institution. And because of that, there is that divorce. Because we must be able to have these political institutions having proper exchange programs amongst them to say, you're going to discuss about ICT. In terms of excellency, in terms of the best foot forward, what can we do? Because these are young people in these political parties. In as much as there's the whipping system and loyalties, I don't think there's anything wrong for us to find each other. In their different groupings, sit down, talk about development, agree or disagree on these things. What's the funny thing is that because of the toxicity, if you go into the combis, you go into the buses, into the streets, our young people are very active. They're proffering solutions. But because these political jackets are toxic, heavy, and sometimes very intimidating, they're quiet. Why are the young people quiet in these spaces? Number one, you don't want to disrupt your loyalty, how you are perceived to be a hothead. Yeah. Secondly, you're also afraid for your own life.
Yeah, true that.
Then thirdly, you're afraid for alienation. And sometimes, if it's not coming to you, it's coming to your family, it's coming to the people around you, things like that. So I think there's that disconnect. If you go on reputable journals, publishers, I haven't seen even a policy, opinion, blue or white paper document that has come from these political parties critically cementing, supporting, and picking even NDS too that the government is doing across the divide. They are quiet. So you find that issues of young people representation in the national politics, national development, they've become activity based. Oh, today we are celebrating the Youth Day in August 12. They come with placards across the board. Or to those that are still existing, because other political parties have ceased to exist. We don't know if they are there or they are not there. They don't even come with very key things to do. This is what we want to do. Even to say, let's have a youth convention that's going to be submitted there. It could be there because at the end of the day, political parties got different political systems through which they do these things. I might be wrong, but I'm saying you are speaking to the choir, you are in your own silos, because when it comes to technocrats, the people that can contribute this private sector, the civil society and political parties, the discussion is not happening. If it happens amongst the people of the same creed, then definitely it's going to be preaching to the choir. Because if the highest endorser said chinchakanaka, how do I come and say chinachinakunaka? If the highest office is going to say matapezotara chinichi, uchandoberekwa panzi, how do I say chakaipa kwendikatadza kuberekwa? So the incentive around, the dynamics around these things, that's why increasingly becoming disconnected. Where are the bureaucrats in this? The people that are doing so well, where are they? They cannot be housed. Intelligence has become a threat to your own life and to the political existence of the very same institutions that you want to be part of. So I think political parties, you need to do better in terms of how this is happening, in terms of how do you galvanize support, how do you inculcate trust, how do you bridge gaps. Even at national level, we've got diplomats. We definitely know that this nation and our nation does not have aligned political interests. But we still even send an ambassador there. Why are we failing to have ambassadors at that level where we can have young people from this political party engage with other young people from the opposing political party? Once citizens see that there is exchange of ideas and the best ideas are standing the time of the day, I'm telling you, the culture will change. But for now, I think the political culture at political parties is what's translating at government level, where failure and inefficiencies is uploaded because Diana Taura, Astaura Panani, how Hanza, how Pise Chef, do Mashokani Ngari Banditika, how Pise Mtunga, and at the end of the day, the disconnect is far reaching and far deep.
Okay, I think the viewers, they need to know kuti youth anotangira papa chiperera papi, because tiri kuona zvimwe zviri kukonzesa disconnections nechekuti we have a representation of the youth within a political party asiri muyouth. Ndo mamwe machallenges anenge achifacwa iwawo kuti you are representing vanhu vausinganzwisisi zvausiri, then how do we share my ideas, how do we become or be in a place iri one kuti tikudiscussa tikutaura tiri kudai kana baba vangu vari kutungamirira mayouth same youth.
Okay.
Yeah. So toda kuziva kuti youth range yakamira sei muZimbabwe kuti unziwo uri muyouth yatangira pa kumira pa makore mangani.
So in Zimbabwe, in our constitution and through the African Charter, it has to be 18 to 35.
18 to 35.
But it's very important for us to look at that figure because at 18, someone is finishing A level.
Yes.
And some of the very important young people you need to see in this space are those that are economically active, 26 to 35. Yeah. It's also a very important bracket because we're saying someone, it's either they've recently established a family, they are now starting to grow into their career, they've made that decision, they've gone through tertiary education, vocational education, they've gone through the age of majority to an extent that you can even try drive public service vehicle at 25. So there's that acceptance that at 25 going above, there is that issue of you being able to economically, socially, and politically be able to participate and to provide value in this thing. And that specific group, that specific group, because of frustrations, the lack of space, the lack of respect, and the lack of accommodation in these things. But remember, we now have 10 youth seats because of PR and things like that. We also want to thank these political parties because at some point there was huge appetite in 2023 for young people to vote, which led to these 10 seats, and the political parties were able to receive them. Unfortunately, another question that you need to answer as a political party was that done on merit? Are the right people representing the correct people? Or again, do we see further patronage and further selectivism and favoritism translating to the 10? It's also very important. Of the 10 that has gone through PR, how much have they done in their political parties to make sure that there is a comfortable or a conducive environment for young people to rise out of those political parties?
Okay, I think for me, that's all. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for viewing and for listening. I don't know if you have any.
I like these conversations. So I'm hoping to keep on interacting with young people in different forums and different platforms. I would say being critical of the national policy is not selling out. It's not being a terrorist or anything that is scary. At the end of the day, it's ideas that sharpen ideas. And it's very important that when that platform is provided, be it by national consultations, public hearing, writing to the parliament, knocking on the doors of the important people, we do that. Because one thing to express your interest or your grief or your disinterest in something within the right ways, or sometimes doing the right thing the wrong way. And as young people, I think we must be able to find each other, have that consensus, have that clarity, and still engaging with those people. So I'm happy with this platform, and I hope we're going to see more engagement. If there are information or if there are statements that did not resonate with you well, it was an invitation to the discussion. Let's have the best minds, the sharpest minds, or everyone with their voice. Let's discuss these issues. When it comes to issues of our national development, vakuru vakati nyika inovakwa nevene vayo, vamwe vakati muchanakirwa, vamwe vakati vachita maspaghetti roads. Zvese zvaingova zvinhu zvichatinakira. So kuti zvinake, let's engage and make sure that youth reality, a good life for young people, is not only an aspirant but a reality. Thank you.